Tonight on the Donlon Report, protests, calls for freedom and an end to the communist dictatorship in Cuba as the economy crumbles, leaving many fighting for food.
The people of Cuba are starving. They're in need of medicine. They're in need of international help. And frankly, unless the Cuban military or the Cuban police turns on the Cuban government, the Cuban people will continue to be repressed without any hope of freedom in the future.
I'll speak with the Miami mayor live on the crisis unfolding in Cuba and what he says the United States must do next. In Texas, Democratic lawmakers revolt against a new voting law proposal by leaving the state. But will that protest work? How long are lawmakers willing to avoid the Capitol? The Donlon Report starts right now. Good evening. Great to have you with us. We begin here tonight with a fight for freedom, or perhaps the start of one anyway. Thousands of people taking to the streets to protest in Cuba, roughly 100 miles off the coast of America, in some cases waving American flags. These are rare anti-government demonstrations, considered extraordinary, unlike anything we've seen there in Cuba in decades. The island having been run by a Castro, Fidel, and then his brother Raul from 1959 until just this year. Behind this movement, food shortages, the spread of COVID, a lack of medicine, and power outages as well. Protesters are voicing their opposition to the communist government, shouting, "We want freedom, liberty, and we are not afraid." In some cases, Cubans went beyond protesting to looting, taking goods from government-run stores. The biggest question, of course, where does this lead? Are changes afoot in Cuba? Now, what role might the U.S. play, if any, moving forward? Brian Etten joins us live now from Little Havana in Miami with the latest on what's happening there and in Cuba. Brian?
Joe, this is a massive crowd that has literally been growing by the minute here in Miami's Little Havana neighborhood. Take a look at this. These are Cuban Americans out here. They're about to shut down the street like they did last night because the crowd is so large. These Cuban Americans feel hopeful. They saw the images of these protests yesterday. Unprecedented protests in Cuba. This has never happened before, where thousands of people were able to get out onto the street. And the people here feel very, very hopeful about that. They feel that this could actually be a moment of change in Cuba, and this could be a moment that they've never, ever experienced before. What's interesting is these Cuban Americans trying to get in touch with their families today in Cuba. There's been a total blackout. Senator Marco Rubio says that the Cuban regime is using both Chinese and Russian equipment to shut down the phone lines and the internet. So while we saw all of those images of the protests yesterday, today we've seen very, very little. And the family members here are very worried about their relatives in Cuba because they haven't been able to get through to them. Many of the people here, they want the U.S. to intervene. They're concerned that the dictatorship in Cuba will respond to these protests with violence. There are also people out here who say they will take matters into their own hands, get on boats, and go to Cuba and try to take over for themselves. Take a listen.
There's several Cuban Americans, thousands, that are legally armed. They have boats, and they are ready to go and support the Cuban people. And at this point, that's what they need. As we speak, they are being beaten. They are being killed right now on the island at this very moment.
And right now, I just saw some images from here in Miami. There are groups of Cuban Americans gathering supplies together, saying they plan to board boats tonight, go out into international waters, and try to deliver those supplies to Cuba, which could get very, very interesting if that indeed happens. And you mentioned at the top, Joe, right now the issue in Cuba, limited food, shortages of critical medicines, and more people dealing with COVID. Joe?
Brian, thank you very much. I know it's hard for you to hear, so we'll spare the question and get more on this coming up in just a minute. In fact, we're joined now for more on the political fallout and the ramifications in Cuba from Leland Vittert. Leland, I know that you've covered Havana and Cuba and other situations a lot. A couple things come to mind. First, I would say, as Brian brought up, the fact that now I guess they've cut off internet access. We're not seeing what we saw yesterday, right, which is troubling and concerning.
Yeah, the playbook that you're watching from the Cubans seems very similar to the playbook that we saw during the Arab Spring. For example, what happened in Egypt when I was there, when they cut off the internet and phone service there, and also what happened not only there in Egypt, but in Libya as well, and in Syria in addition to that. These are some of the images from this past weekend out of Cuba, and you can see not only the uniformed police, but the armed communist thugs pulling protesters out of these crowds. The similarities between the images of the Arab Spring and what you're seeing in Cuba are eerily similar. But remember, you've got President Biden now watching these images and remembering what happened when the U.S. intervened in the Egyptian protests, in the Libyan protests, in the Libyan civil war, and then also in Syria, which is still in a state of civil war. You've got Cuba, which is 90 miles off of our shores. Russia and China are deeply, deeply embedded in the government there inside of Cuba. It would be hard to imagine a more complicated situation for the White House than what they are dealing with right now, not only from a foreign relations standpoint, from a domestic political standpoint. Remember, there were 70 or so progressive members of Congress that back in March were writing letters to President Biden demanding he lift sanctions on the communist regime there in Cuba. And now you've got these thousands of people in the streets being beaten, demanding democracy.
Right. And these people in Miami who are calling for change now.
Right.
They say the time is now. And the mayor of Miami is calling for an international intervention, which is hard to sort of picture.
Oh, boy.
Game that out. How would it look?
Well, back in the Middle East, we used to say you have two choices, both of which are bitter. You can try to intervene in some way passively in something going on in Cuba. And remember, the Cuban-American vote in Miami is critical, not only in the 2024 presidential elections, swing state of Florida, but also in the 2022 midterm elections. So the domestic political concerns make things very, very complicated. In terms of gaming out military intervention, we tried that once. It was called Bay of Pigs invasion. It did not go very well. You also have a long history of American intervention in Latin America that did not go in very well. There's going to be no appetite. In fact, the Russians and the Chinese are going to veto anything at the UN Security Council. The idea of military intervention seems unlikely, but then you say, what do? You've got thousands upon thousands of people in the streets, many of whom are being beaten and killed right now, demanding freedom. And what the Americans just stand back?
Right. Well, what are lawmakers saying? Because I know Marco Rubio is on the record on this.
Oh, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, so many others are talking about this. Mark Green out of Florida. We have a tweet from Marco Rubio, and this kind of foreshadows perhaps what you might be seeing going on. Regime in Cuba will now threaten that a Rafter or a Mariel-style crisis is inevitable if the U.S. doesn't stop encouraging protests. He goes on, return to Obama policy. We must not cave to blackmail, and at POTUS must warn them that encouraging mass migration is going to be considered a hostile action. And interestingly enough, President Biden has stood firm with what was President Trump's policy. He did not go back to President Obama's policy that Trump had reversed. So this is going to be a very key test for President Obama, for President Biden, pardon me, in terms of how does he view his former boss's policies. Remember, it was then President Obama who was down cozying up to the Castros back before he left office.
And
now you have this. Opening up to tourism. And that was supposed to bring across all these democratic norms and these feelings about, democratic organizations and how it was going to open Cuba up, and that was going to bring freedom and prosperity. In fact, all it's brought is more misery.
Well, there's some division in Miami on that as well. Some of the older guard thinking it wasn't a good idea to reward Cuba by allowing the tourism, and then the younger folks on the other side of that. We'll talk more with the mayor of Miami.
Great interview coming up.
We do, Leland, want to mention that your show, On Balance, begins 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, a week from tonight, right here.
We're counting on you for the lead-in.
We'll do what we can. Leland, thanks. And we will have, in fact, even more on this. We mentioned we're going to be joined live by Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. He's calling for an international intervention, as we talked about, in Cuba, saying now is the time. The mayor, again, will join us a little later on in this broadcast. We want to turn now to Texas, where today 59 state lawmakers walked out of the state capitol and the state as a whole. 59 Democrats chartered 2 planes to D.C. and plan to stay out of the state for weeks as they try to block new voting legislation in the state of Texas. Democrats there were able to block the bill back in May using the same tactics. This time they will need to stay away, though, for 30 days in order to stop that bill again. Texas Governor Greg Abbott released a statement today saying their decision to break a quorum of the Texas legislature and abandon the Texas state capitol inflicts harm on the very Texans who elected them to serve. As they fly across the country on cushy private planes, they leave undone issues that can help their districts and our state.
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. We know there are some things that work, and the first of those that works is stemming the flow of firearms used to commit violent crimes.
President Biden from his meeting today with a number of city leaders and law enforcement officials, including New York mayoral candidate Eric Adams, on stopping the rise of violence and crime in the country. I'll speak with retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey about that issue coming up. And don't forget, you can follow us on social media at the Donlon Report on Twitter. Another deadly weekend across America. According to the Gun Violence Archive, 126 Americans were killed by gunfire, nearly 300 more injured. In Chicago alone, 40 shot, 11 killed. That's where rapper Londre Sylvester, known as KTS Dre, was killed over the weekend in a hail of bullets. He was shot 64 times as he was leaving jail. Meantime, police in Chicago also announcing the arrest of a gunman accused of killing a couple following a minor traffic accident. Police say the 34-year-old fled to California. All this while President Biden met today with law enforcement officials and his party's nominee for mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, a former police captain. Adams seen here in this meeting saying this weekend his party's priorities on guns have been misguided. Outside the White House after the meeting, he added this.
One thing I'm clear about. The prerequisite to prosperity is public safety and justice. And if we don't have them both together, it doesn't matter how many police officers you put on the streets. We can't continue to respond to symptoms. It's time to respond to the underlying causes of violence in our city.
Retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey joins us now. Sergeant, the president will ask you to put on your political and policing hat here. The president meeting with a former police captain around a mayor's race that now is focusing on crime suddenly and not COVID. What do you make of all of this?
Well, because the president understands by his own admission that, all he can do to try to stem the tide of violence that's going on in these communities is to encourage local leaders to create programs to reduce violence, crime reduction strategies. And so police chiefs, commissioners, sheriffs have tremendous autonomy, and they're going to have to be the ones who are going to have an appetite to do something about this violence that's occurring week in and week out.
What do you make of what Eric Adams said there, Sergeant, about focusing perhaps, I know before that he said too much on the role of police and not paying enough attention to some of these underlying causes?
Well, I think it's a multifaceted problem, and I don't think there's one thing that's going to fix it. I mean, the role of police is certainly critical. The relationship that police departments have within the community, I think a lack of trust that continues to be problematic, also hinders officers in identifying and arresting bad doers in these communities because people don't trust the police and they don't want to contact them for any reason.
When you look at some of those underlying conditions, Sergeant, though, you talk about schools and you talk about resources, you talk about employment. These are longer term, bigger picture issues. What do you think needs to be done in the short term?
Well, I believe that they need to be more proactive. And so I don't think less police is the problem. Certainly, defund the police is something that we've heard bantered around. And I don't think we need less police. I think we need more police. Got to be the right kind of police officer out there enforcing those laws. And again, we have to work towards rebuilding the relationship between the community and between police departments. And so, listen, this would not be allowed to occur in an affluent area. There's a fix. They just have to have an appetite to address it.
It appears that Eric Adams will be the next mayor. It's an uphill climb for Curtis Lewa. He called himself today, Adams did, the new face of the Democratic Party. Sergeant, when you hear him pushing back on the defund the police message that Republicans are certainly using against Democrats, is this a formula, you think, or a playbook that Democrats will be using again as we head into the midterms next year?
Well, I guess that remains to be seen, but I think most Democrats don't want the police departments to be defunded because we understand the vital role that they play in these communities. And so less police, taking money away, resources, equipment, and all of that is going to only further exacerbate the problem because understand bad guys watch the news too. And if there are less police officers out there, I believe they'll be more inclined to continue to behave poorly.
Some of the talk coming out of this meeting as well, Sergeant, focused on targeting rogue gun dealers and tracking illegal firearms. Practically speaking, on the street, how does that work? Does it?
Well, listen, I think those kinds of laws and regulations are really for good law-abiding citizens. I think bad guys who get guns illegally through nefarious means are going to continue to figure out ways to do that. But again, I don't say no to anything because we've got to try everything that's available and accessible to try to stem the violence that's occurring. And so if it means restricting gun sales and those who violate the laws with regards to gun sales, taking away their license, I'm for all of it.
Well, we often promote you to the chief's chair, Sergeant. I know we do that to you quite a bit, but if you had 10 minutes with President Biden today to get his ear, what would you tell him?
Well, what I would say is let's work on the things that we can do right now. Let's work on getting officers out there with the right temperament and mentality to deal with the problems that are increasing. Let's work to bridge the gap between the community and the police because the community needs the police and the police certainly need the input of the community to fix what's going on.
Cheryl Dorsey, retired LAPD Sergeant. It's always good to have you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
A third of restaurant and hotel workers, 1/3, won't return to work, according to a new report. What that new normal means for business and the economy. I'll discuss with the top restaurateur ahead. And as drought conditions worsen, wildfires continue to rage in the Pacific Northwest. How long will the burn last? Unfortunately, there may be no vaccine for this symptom of COVID. According to a survey by the website JobList, nearly 4 in 10 hospitality workers who lost their jobs during the pandemic say they're leaving the industry. Why is that? More than half want a new work setting. In other words, no more restaurants, bars, or hotels. Nearly half say with the pandemic behind them, they want to make more money, and that's elsewhere, with more than half of one-time industry workers saying no pay hike would be enough to get them back. Chef Andrew Gruel joins us now. He's the founder of Slapfish Restaurant. Chef, it's great to have you. For a man in your position, that's pretty troubling to hear, isn't it?
I mean, it certainly is, but headlines don't necessarily scare me anymore. I think that this one certainly underscores this kind of pathological need or desire to push a certain narrative, in the midst of COVID, right? COVID being the predicate to push this idea that restaurant workers aren't going back into the restaurant space because of all these negatives associated with it. I mean, you could distill it down to any industry, and you're always going to have workers saying that they don't want to go back to that industry. If I asked anybody right now in every single job, do they want to be paid more? Do they want better working conditions? Heck, I would even say yes, being at the top of that theoretical food chain.
Right.
You can't boil this down to one thing. There's so many reasons why people aren't going back into the workforce right now. And on either side of this debate, no one reason is taking the cake. So that's one thing to keep into consideration.
Yeah, that's a fair point, too, because as you mentioned that, I was thinking about an article that we read last week and had talked about on the program here, about 95% of people contemplating a change in job. The pandemic led us all to sort of hit the reset button and think if maybe there was something better or bigger for us out there. What are you seeing with your employees, Chef? Are you running into any of this? Because typically the employers do have a lot of the leverage. The employees want to work, they want that job. But things have shifted here now. They're able to ask for a lot more.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in many cases that's a really good thing. We've always been on the side of paying at least 20 to 50% above minimum wage. We provide a great work environment. So I wouldn't say that we're having trouble by virtue of the amount that we're paying. I would just say in general, the supply of applicants is very, very low in comparison to times past. Now, we have increased the wages just by virtue of the fact that everyone is experiencing inflation. See, that's not what people aren't talking about, that piece of it. And when prices are going up at the rate they're going up, everything is going up. We've also wanted to remain somewhat competitive just to be able to stand out there and say, look, we're proud of being a really great employer, and we're proud of also retaining our team members by paying them what I think are great amounts of money, even in the world of a living wage. But I am talking to other restaurateurs, and they're saying, yeah, we can't find employees, and a lot of them are paying that kind of low-level minimum wage. So money is important here, but it's also about just the general supply and demand.
Yeah, we went out this weekend, Chef, and it was Friday night in Chicago. Chicago's coming back for sure, no question. There were long waits, and we noticed several open tables, which we, I guess, chalked up to the fact that they probably didn't have the staff to wait on those tables. We also noticed that when the server did come to our table, there was a trainee with her. So this is probably going to take some time to get people on board, right?
100%. And it's a grand shock to the system right now in every industry, but in the restaurant industry, you have to be there then and now, and it's a just-in-time type of business, right? You can't work remote, so that's really important, and there's been a luxury of working remote in many industries right now, which has pulled people from the restaurant industry. But furthermore, in the restaurant industry, especially in places like California, where they're starting to talk about all these new variants and, oh, we're not through this yet, people are afraid that they're going to get shut down again and they're going to lose the unemployment benefits. I've had employees say to me, I'm going to go back and secure those benefits because I foresee a shutdown and I can't risk losing those benefits like I did the first 5 times around.
Are you thinking that maybe folks who have bigger aspirations, Chef, might maybe think differently about this? I know your new project is looking to help out entrepreneurs. You're basically giving an opportunity to kind of beta test their concept before they take it out, whether that be in a food truck or a brick and mortar restaurant, right?
Yeah, so look, this is an opportunity for people to get into the game. This is also an opportunity for, kind of entry-level management, mid-level management, because those are the people who kind of fall on the outside of this kind of unemployment game that we're talking about, where salaries are increasing at a rapid rate. Look, in the restaurant industry, you can easily make 6 figures with absolutely no education on an entry-level basis if you show that you really want to do it and you work hard and you have that sense of urgency. You can't do that in many other industries, especially from a, kind of an entry-level perspective. So that's a great thing for the restaurant industry. And as an entrepreneur, you can also get in right now into inexpensive spaces that might be second generation and are turnkey.
Do you think you'll see an overall shift that we'll all notice at some point here in the restaurant industry, whether that shifts away from eating in or it shifts more toward food trucks? You're familiar with all of that. How do you see this playing out over the next 6 months to a year?
I think we're going to see an explosion of high-quality, ready-to-eat foods, I call them, almost vending machine-style foods, where you're going to have prepared meals that are made in a commissary, massive options across the grand scale. Think of like a 7-Eleven, now multiply that times 1,000 and add a lot of layers of quality to it. You're going to see a lot of restaurants move into that retail game.
Chef Andrew Gruel, it's great to see you. You've seen him on TV, food trucks. He's got lots of specialties in the food game, and we're glad you spent some time with us tonight. Chef, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wildfires continue to burn in the Pacific Northwest, and with drought conditions getting worse, how long before the fires get put out? We'll have more on that. Plus, the billionaire space race has been won, at least for now. When will the average American be able to afford to cruise above the atmosphere? We'll talk with an astronaut about the future of spaceflight ahead. The West is already headed for a dangerously hot and dry summer, with wildfires raging through thousands of acres in California and Oregon. Joining me now with the latest on that, News Nation's Nancy Liu. Hi, Nancy.
Hi there, Joe. Wildfires and heat actually threatening the power grid. As you know, California has an intricate system of lines to serve 40 million people. We're now under a flex alert. That's a call for voluntary energy conservation to prevent power problems. And this is the 3rd flex alert in just the past 4 days. All because of a huge factor, a wildfire that plays into this. The massive bootleg fire up in the Klamath region of southern Oregon. It's been burning for 6 days now, tearing through more than 150,000 acres, but also taking out transmission lines which carry electricity into California. Firefighters have actually had to back off in the bootleg battle due to life-threatening conditions. Now, California's biggest battle is the Beckworth Complex fire. This is in the Plumas National Forest. It was sparked by lightning a week ago and has grown to nearly 90,000 acres. There's also the River Fire in Mariposa County, which is at around 90,000 acres, along with dozens of other fires throughout the West. The heat wave has only made things worse. Now, this flex alert goes until 9 p.m. tonight. Already, this California wild season is twice as bad as this point last year. And Joe, as you know, we've got drought conditions, very dry ground. Just last week, Governor Newsom had asked Californians to voluntarily cut back water use by 15%.
Nancy Liu, live for us tonight in California. Thank you for the setup, which is a great segue for us into our next guest, because we're going to talk more about these massive wildfires and also the severe drought we're seeing out west. And joining us for more is Rick Callender, CEO of Valley Water Droughts. They're common out there in California, the droughts are. We know that. But what's different this year about this, and why is it so bad?
Well, what's different, I think what you're looking right now, this is the driest season since 1977. Locally, right here in Silicon Valley, rainfall is 41% of average. Our reservoir status, we're just 14% of capacity. We're really in a bad condition.
Yeah, when you say that, Rick, for someone who's not there, explain how dire this situation is. We've seen some pictures of these reservoirs that are way down, but what does it translate to on the ground?
Yeah, for us in Santa Clara County, we have 10 reservoirs in Valley Water. Our largest reservoir right now is completely empty. It holds 90,000 acre feet. And just so you can have an understanding of how much 90,000 acre feet is, basically that's 326,000 gallons, what basically is 1 acre foot. And you can, with 1 acre foot, you can feed 2 families, 2 households per year. So when we have our largest reservoir that's down, that's a very bad situation. The reason why it's down is it was emptied basically so we can fix it seismically. It had seismic issues and FERC ordered it empty. So with that, we're seeing no rainfall. Our largest reservoir is empty. Right now, we got a 1-year supply of groundwater that we're dealing with, and then we're trying to purchase water on the open market. So we're trying our best to purchase as much emergency water as we can.
We hear heat and drought, Rick, but this goes back beyond just the summertime, correct? I mean, we're talking about a snowpack that was low as well over the winter.
Absolutely. The snowpack, and it's melting even faster right now. So if you're seeing what was going on, all the projections that even in the state that they were making in terms of where the snowpack was going to be and what it's going to look like, it's melting because it's very warm. So we're in a situation, this is why we're calling on everyone to conserve. We've got to make sure we have enough water for next year as we're moving forward. So conservation, the governor's call is critical right now.
Yeah, when we hear about rolling blackouts on the power side of it, Rick, right now you're talking about asking people to conserve water. What's the next step, and what are the chances that folks get there?
Well, but I think conservation right now is what we can call on from everyone. Our board of directors, we took a call for basically 15% mandatory water cutbacks. We're going to be working with our retailers to make sure that we can implement these things. So when we're asking folks to conserve, I know a lot of folks said that we've already been doing it. We need everyone to make sure that you're doing your best. So looking at some of the tips and tools that we're talking about, fixing leaks, shortening your shower time, turning off your water when brushing your teeth. But we need everyone to contribute in this conservation effort.
Right, and beyond people, I mean, you can talk about recreation because that's had a huge impact on folks out there, but you also have so many more, from salmon to irrigation for the farmers. How deep and how troubling is this, Rick?
Well, it's very troubling. I would not want to be a farmer in this environment. When you have basically the farming community, some of the water that they were expecting, they're not going to be able to get any. So when you're looking at being able to conduct business, and we're right in the heart of Silicon Valley, so I have the opportunity not only to make sure that we're providing for protections for the economy, for the business economy, but we also have a robust agricultural community. So we're all in this together. We all have to find a way to conserve and to cut back, but we've got to make sure that we can get enough water for everybody.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it for sure. Rick Callender, CEO of Valley Water, we appreciate the insight tonight and that update on the knowledge. Best of luck to you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Pro-democracy protests are filling the streets of Miami tonight. I'll speak with Miami Mayor Francis Suarez about how the U.S. can help the Cuban cause. That's ahead.
The United States and the international community must do something now. They need to come together similarly to how they came together to condemn the acts in Venezuela. The government of Cuba is an illegitimate government, is not a democratic government.
As we discussed at the top of the broadcast, protests marking the weekend in Cuba. Thousands flooding the streets of Havana, calling for liberty, a better economy, and an end to rampant power blackouts. Meantime, Cuban Americans in Miami are also hitting the streets. Here's the scene right now in Little Havana as they call for an end of more than 70 years of communism on the island. Could it be the time? Our guest now, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, certainly hopes so. Mayor, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the time. When you see that video that we just showed there of these protesters and the scale of it, your perspective is very important here, and I want to get this. What is the significance of this to you, Mayor?
It's historic. We hope that this is the moment where communism in Cuba falls, because it can have not only a liberating impact for the Cuban people, which of course is incredibly important, but it could free up people throughout the hemisphere who are underneath the control of communist governments in Nicaragua and Venezuela, tens of millions of people. So, I mean, this is an incredible moment. I think the Cuban government was caught completely by surprise. They immediately did what they normally do, which is they shut off the internet. And then they started going out in the streets and beating the protesters and trying to use their repression apparatus to keep people who were risking their lives, like the ones that you see out there, yelling and calling for freedom and liberty.
Is it troubling that we're not seeing more of this, which might lead many to believe that these crackdowns are working and there aren't as many people on the street? I mean, think about this. Part of why it is so unusual is that this would have never happened, correct me if I'm wrong, under the Castro regime. They would have quashed this quickly.
Well, it only happened once in 1994 in a very small part of Havana. This happened in 24 different cities. And what's scary about it and what you see in these videos is that they're throwing rocks and they have sticks, and they're competing against police officers with guns and bayonets and professional equipment. So it's really unfair for the Cuban people who are being completely abused by the police and by the military. And unfortunately, what happens in circumstances like this is it requires the military to make a decision to choose on behalf of the people of the country and to do right by history, as opposed to what they think maybe in their best personal interest.
Do you think we're at that point, Mayor? Have you heard anything about that?
Unfortunately, I haven't heard any reports that are, confirmable. I really hope that we do get to that point. I really hope that this is something like we saw in Berlin, like we saw, in the former Soviet Union. You want it to be some sort of a rapid, peaceful disintegration of government and transition into a democracy. But you wonder whether there's going to be something, another example of repression winning the day, or like what's happened in Venezuela, where you had an interim government recognized by the international community that couldn't take power.
Let's talk more about that, because I read a quote from you where you said you were talking about an international intervention. And I also saw on your Twitter feed where you said this is the moment for freedom in Cuba. It cannot wait any longer. How would that look? You say led by the U.S. I'm having a hard time sort of picturing how this would look without an invasion. You say there's a possibility of doing it rapidly and peacefully. How might this play out?
First of all, you have to get the international community on board. The communist regime in Cuba has done a wonderful job of trying to mask what's going on and blame the United States for everything wrong that's happening there. We see with these images very, very clearly and through social media what they're doing to their own people, and that their own people are the ones that are seeking liberty and justice. The international community has to do something. There's food shortages, there's medicine shortages, and frankly, the people want freedom. There have been many examples in history where coalition of countries have gone in and done a variety of interventions that have been successful in creating a democracy in the absence of some of the examples that I gave you where it happened naturally.
So if it were to start now, what would the U.S.'s role be in this? Because as you know, the longer we wait and get on the other side of this, a week from now, a month from now, this is a memory. Oh, remember the uprising.
Absolutely. And that's something that can happen. And that's something that's right. I think, actions have to be taken. And it's going to take the United States and a coalition of countries to have the courage to do what's right. We saw, President Bush basically take out Manuel Noriega in Panama and install. There were democratic elections after that. the country of Panama is thriving economically. It's been a democracy ever since, and they haven't had a strongman dictator since that moment. It was something that changed the destiny of that country.
What's happening on your streets in Miami there, and how does that impact what's happening in Cuba? I was struck by something our reporter on the scene in Little Havana there said, Brian Enton, about how, I don't think he's exaggerating either, but there are thousands of people who are literally ready to go and fight now.
He's not exaggerating. I can tell you that, when Fidel Castro passed away, I think it was sort of the last thing that the prior generation, to me, was sort of hoping for, and hoping that would, create change. This is a spontaneous uprising of the Cuban people, and the people that are protesting in Miami are young people that are recent arrivals from Cuba. So they're people that are very connected to the Cuban island. They have family members that are there. They're seeing their family members, and they're hearing from their family members as they're being tortured, as they're being hit, and as they're being beaten. And so they want to get involved and feel hopeless.
Do the people in Cuba, Mayor, have a chance? Do you think they can survive this? Will this uprising continue, or do you think the government will put it down?
I think the government's going to do everything they can to put it down, because they were not expecting this. I think they were caught off guard. I think the images and the time that it took them to react is evidence of that, because they were afraid that if they reacted, that the images that we're seeing was what the international community was seeing. And they were hoping that somehow the United States, that they could blame this whole thing on the United States, which is precisely what they tried to do. That's their playbook. My hope is that either internal dissension creates a change, or something from the outside makes this moment a real moment.
Can you envision democracy there in Cuba?
Absolutely. The people of Cuba deserve it. The people of Cuba have been yearning for it, and they understand that to have a true democracy in Cuba, it will create a tremendous amount of prosperity for them and for their families and for their future. And I've always said that what communism has done, the worst thing that it's done, aside from all the people that it's killed, is that it's robbed people's hope. If you have no hope in a better tomorrow, then you have no reason to live. And if you don't have any reason to live, that's why you see people putting their lives at risk in the streets of Cuba to protest the government and what it's doing to them.
Well, I think you could see that on a lot of the faces of the protesters there in Cuba. Hope, also anger, frustration, desperation, all of it. We'll continue to keep an eye on this. Mayor Francis Suarez, I know you're very busy down there in Miami. We appreciate you taking some time for us tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Billionaire Richard Branson is back from his trip to space. But what does the flight actually mean for the future of extraterrestrial travel? We'll ask an astronaut just ahead. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at the Donlon Report on Twitter.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream, looking up to the stars. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship.
That was Virgin Galactic founder Richard Branson aboard the spaceplane VSS Unity, which launched into space this weekend, bringing mankind one step closer to space tourism. Joining me now, astronaut Jose Hernandez. He's been to space himself. Did those words ring familiar to you, Jose?
Absolutely, Joe. But he's not just an adult in space. He's an adult in his own spaceship in space, which is pretty amazing.
Well, that's what made it special, right? He's the first. So
exactly.
We talked briefly last week before this launch on Sunday. I thought of you Sunday as I watched it. It didn't last long, the flight, that is. I mean, you went up in the shuttle in 2009, as I recall, and you were up for 14 days. This flight, not quite as long, but it was sure fun to watch.
Yes, not quite as long, but it reached the objective of reaching the edge of space. We went up 55 miles, and they reached their objective of having a zero-G environment for 3 to 4 minutes, and then they came back home, and before you knew it, 17 minutes later, it was all over.
Yeah, quick. So the moment the plane dropped was probably the most tense to watch, I guess, but it seemed like everything went off without a hitch.
Absolutely. The White Knight 2 climbs up to a elevation of 50,000 feet, and then it releases the VSS Unity, and then it free falls for a little while, glides, and then the rocket engine turns on, and off it goes onto space with a force of 3 Gs on the body. until it reaches the maximum altitude and then slowly starts coming back to Earth.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know we're talking about rocket science here, but relatively speaking, this system seems pretty straightforward. I mean, certainly more than a rocket launch, and also the way it just kind of glides back down for the landing. Exactly.
It takes off like an airplane. It separates and it goes off like a rocket ship, but then it comes back and lands like an airplane, a glider, if you will, because it doesn't have propulsion. So you only have one chance at landing it. And the two pilots did a masterful job, just like the space shuttle. And you have one chance at landing it, and they did a great job.
Well, when you simplify it like that, it seems like there's less that can go wrong. And when you're talking about other, like for example, what we're going to see here with Jeff Bezos, where that actually will be a launch, how will that mission be different, and how long will it last? How will they land?
Well, it'll be a lot different in the sense that Jeff Bezos' New Shepard rocket is like a traditional rocket. It has a capsule on top where the crew is, and the rocket propels them up into space. It separates, and then they experience microgravity, 0G, for a few minutes. It comes back down, almost ballistic, through the atmosphere, and then parachutes and retrojet rockets slow it down, and it lands on land. And they'll have a bumpy landing, but nonetheless, they come back on land and are able to go again whenever they refurbish it.
Right, it's reusable, right. So you've heard, Jose, I'm sure, heard the criticism about the billionaires going to space and spending all this money. Obviously, they can spend it however they want. It's their money. But does this pay off for NASA in the big picture, or is it primarily about space tourism?
Look, anytime you can get private industry to pay their own money to further research in space, I think it's a good thing for the taxpayer, because that's $1 less that we as taxpayers have to spend on NASA. And the fact that they're working together will mean that they'll be able to move quicker and into more complex projects, such as building a lunar base on the moon, and then testing technology, developing technologies that we're gonna need to one day set our sights on and send humans to the surface of Mars. So we're all gonna be doing it together. I don't think one country can do it. I don't think multiple countries can do it. I think if we get private industry, multiple countries all working together for the same cause, we'll eventually get there in 15 years or so.
Do you ever look up at the stars and say, wow, I can't believe I was there?
Oh, all the time. Each time I see a launch, I get chills and say, man, I want to go back. So I'm just hoping the phone rings from one of these 3 billionaires saying, hey, we need experienced astronauts to help take the tourists. I'll be a great tourist guide in space.
I love it. That's a great idea. Jose Hernandez, it's great to see you again. Thanks for your time and your insight.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
All right. That's our time for tonight. Have a great evening. Rob and Marnie are next with Prime.